Okay, so this video will be a reaction for a TED Talk video, and yeah, let's go.
1981, in the fall, I was a new infectious disease fellow, just showed up at UCLA to start my fellowship. It was grand rounds, and grand rounds are when very interesting or rare cases are discussed by experts. I actually had no idea how pivotal that grand rounds was really going to be for me. It was about young gay men from Hollywood who had shown up with a very unusual infection called pneumocystis. We were familiar with pneumocystis, but only in the setting of profound immune deficiency. These were young, healthy men. What the heck happened? We didn't know. Was it something toxic? Were they exposed altogether to some sort of event? Was this an infection? It was totally not known. There was a lot of conversation about that. Not long after, there were reports from Florida, and then there were reports from New York, and then there were reports from San Francisco. These gay men who were getting not only pneumocystis, but herpes, all sorts of opportunistic infections. We didn't know why, but clearly this appeared to be something far greater than a local outbreak. After that, it was Europe. Then it was Asia. Then it was Africa. This was a pandemic. We thought it was an infection. In fact, as the information started to come out from the Centers for Disease Control, they noted there was a striking pattern. This infection appeared to be sexually transmitted. It appeared to be transmitted in blood. People who use intravenous drugs, who shared needles, who shared syringes, were also getting these same symptoms and signs. And then it was hemophiliacs who received blood. And then it was babies who were born to mothers who were infected. This was exactly like hepatitis B. We knew a lot about hepatitis B. Suddenly, we had a pathway forward. This was not all unknown. This was acting exactly like a virus that we were familiar with. We knew about interventions. We knew about how to prevent. What we didn't know was how to treat. It was so sad. It became real to me the first time I saw an AIDS patient. I was still in my fellowship. We were studying acyclovir for herpes, and I walked into a room where the note on the door said, this man was only 30 years old. He looked 60. He was emaciated. He had the worst herpes infection I had ever seen. He was in pain. I was studying acyclovir. I had to get a detailed history. It was so sad to listen to this story. It was sadder yet to realize that all I could provide was some comfort care. We could not cure. But I could provide compassion and care and ask questions that made them think I really did care about him, and I did. About the same time, we started to see another pandemic develop. This one was all about stigma and fear and discrimination. It was terrible to watch. My colleagues in the hospital refused to take care of patients with AIDS. They were fearful of being infected. They were aghast when I walked in the room without gloves, without a mask, without a gown, because I knew that's not how this virus was transmitted. I was able to touch my patients, which gave them comfort and let them know I cared about them. And I didn't care that they were infected. Their families had thrown them out. They lost their jobs. They lost their apartments. They lost their friends. So not only were they infected with a deadly disease, but they lost everything in their lives. I was their doctor. I was there to take care of them. Did I have apprehensions because there was so much known? We didn't even know for years later that this was caused by HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. We didn't even have any good medications until the mid-90s. We didn't have the right combination until 2010. Very, very slow progress. But through it all, Even though there were so many unknowns, I knew how that virus was transmitted. So let's fast forward. It's now December 2019. China, Wuhan, China, reports an outbreak of pneumonia. Infectious pneumonia, it appears. It spread rapidly. By the time we heard that news, Chinese scientists, because of all the advances in science, already knew what caused that pneumonia. It was coronavirus. The Chinese people already knew about coronavirus. Causes SARS, causes MERS, deadly infections. But this coronavirus was different. We call it COVID-19. How was it different? It wasn't as deadly, but it was highly transmissible. Clearly, in crowded areas, it was spreading rapidly. So where did COVID come from? Well, COVID came because humans and animals interact with each other. And animals get coronaviruses. And it's a highly mutable agent. It mutates all the time. So what happened is this animal virus mutated so it could infect humans. And so in that market in Wuhan, it was able to transmit to a variety of people who then took it home, who then took it to their friends. By the time we heard about this in the United States, we already knew that. We're way ahead of where we were with HIV. We knew how it was spread. It was transmissible through the air. We knew because we'd been working with another virus very much like this for years, influenza. We had planning for influenza. So even though it was horrifying, and here what was horrifying about COVID-19. Number one, it was a new virus. Number two, everybody in the world was susceptible. There was no immunity. And so it was clear that this was not going to be just Wuhan, China. It did not take long. In fact, instead of years, as it took for HIV, it was weeks before we started seeing the cases all over the world, imported with travelers, and then easily transmitted in crowded settings. Was I scared? I remember HIV, and I remember that feeling that, oh my God, this is a deadly virus. Can I do this work? I knew, however, how it was spread, and I was careful with needles and blood. And so I was able to take care of patients with some confidence, although I couldn't really treat them appropriately for many, many years, 20 to be precise. But with coronavirus, this transmissible, this was a scary thought. How were we going to really respond to this? And then I remembered what it was like for me with HIV. I learned to do it sort of in a trial and error process. But I trusted my science, I trusted my colleagues, I trusted my experience. I learned slowly to always be able to deal with what is unknown because I could move forward in a predictable fashion. So for coronavirus, what do we know? We do know it's highly transmissible, and it goes through the air. Talking, breathing, coughing, laughing, sneezing. All of those things propel this virus out. Do we know how to stop that one? Because we don't have a cure, we don't have a medication, we don't have a vaccine. Oh yeah, we know how to stop this one. Because the science from way back when, 5 decades ago at least, tells us how to do this. You isolate, you interrupt that flow of virus from one person to the other. We know how to do this. We know that you can put on a mask, or you can distance yourself from that virus being spewed out and not get infected. So what happened when COVID hit the US? There was another pandemic that we saw. People of Asian descent were getting ugly messages, not only in social media, but on the street and in stores. They were being blamed because this virus was new. There were a lot of things that we didn't know about this virus. So it was blamed. There was fear. What if? What if this was manufactured? What if somebody's trying to kill us all off? There was fear. There was a lot of, we don't know anything. We don't know anything. What are we going to do? Although the pandemic is scary, for me, I remembered about how knowledge comes forward and how we deal with what we know how to do. This was difficult this time. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have social media when HIV first came around. So the transfer of knowledge was not this rapid. We didn't have people setting themselves up as self-proclaimed experts and confusing people with messages. But also, people want clear answers. And when we don't have them, I think it is frightening. So for me, that part of the pandemic, the dis and misinformation, is almost as scary. But we know a lot. And so I don't think we should be confused. Just because we don't know everything doesn't mean we don't know something. We know something. And the something that we know can directly affect how we move through COVID-19. When I go out, I wear my mask and I stay away from people, and I'm respectful of that distance because I want to live through this so that I can see the knowledge come about that makes us safe from COVID for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so this video is very good, and I can say that, but there's something that is a bit like, if you talk about pandemic, especially in this kind of TED talk, you have to also know what it's different from pandemic, from different viruses, and this kind of thing. And the only thing I don't really like with this video is that she do not say anything what she are. If she are a doctor, if she are working with this virus, she only talks about what they know, like from other viruses or some come before this virus than is now. But she not really say anything. That is the problem for me. When you talk about this kind of thing, and you, especially for a big audience or public, you really need to know. The people need to know what that person work with, or what the background of this kind of thing. And the other thing I think is really, it's not really bad, is that not every person in the world can keep a distance because they have to work, and because they have a family, and they are not rich, they don't have lots of these many factors that makes a problem with this talk. It's a big problem. You have to understand, not the world is very different from rich countries with lots of money that have the luxury, example, for working at home with computers, or luxury that you have a big company house that you can work from as a distance from each other. And not everybody have money to buy like the mask that you protect yourself with and all this kind of thing. So I understand the video, understand what that person say, but I don't really know what she work. I don't know anything about that person. I only know that she talks about this kind of thing. What is her? Is she a doctor, or is she work with the lab for a new the vaccine against this virus? Or like, there's so many things that are left out. So I think it's important with this video, really important. For so many different people say different things, about the virus, and I'm not gonna say anything about the virus I don't know. I just think that it's strange that it's very, it's very like, it's very complicated because it's so like, how many people have died from the virus, right from the virus, not from anything else, but only from the virus. So it's today. How many people really? So it's young. I don't mean people that are really is cured, have no other sickness or other thing that can make the immune system weaker or this kind of thing. I really want to know. That is the thing, is that how do how do we really know? That is the problem. I don't absolutely not know anything about this kind of thing. So anything, and I'm not a doctor. I not know anything about this kind of thing. So very interesting. But that is the thing. Here, when I listen to this thing, I want to know more. I don't know. I don't. I don't really want. I don't. I want to know something that gonna be a change for the future. I don't want to know about this. Like, something is, you know. Oh, I don't really know how to say it. When you talk about this kind of thing, this is so important that you really give the people something that they can learn from it. I know really to have a mask on your face is maybe to protect somebody else from the sickness, but how do we even know how this virus even spreads from people to people? Like, what is the real reason why this virus even come to from the start? Um, from Is it like some people say this was from some place in China, or this kind of thing? But what is it from some animals or this kind of thing? It's so many things that we is still a question, and that I think is a problem for me. I really, you want to know, and is it like, for example, like this? Is it more healthy to be inside when there's sunlight outside in the world, sunlight, fresh air, to be inside and don't go out? Because do the virus not come into your house if you not leave, just go to the go out and buy food and buy this kind of thing, like when they do in America? You have to be inside, or they do in Spain. So what is the real? Is it like, is so many things that are a bit like everybody else, like before this, where we always say to be outside, to take in sunlight, to fresh air, all this kind of thing. And plus now they say in other countries be inside. Do that really helps? Like, I don't know. Like, I think the experts about this thing, the real experts, some talks about this pandemic and this kind of thing, really need to give us people some what really is importance. And I don't really believe in that philosophy that you should be like inside with a mask, this kind of thing. I don't really think that really helps. I think this you have to. I think people don't really know. So work with this kind of thing, with this virus. Really work with this. Need to tell us people what the real thing is about this. Not a the reason why I think it's hard to talk about this kind of thing, but it is still a very important thing. It's like you have to. It's like it's two important things. There's one thing is that you really know that some people say one thing, and other people say other thing. What is a virus, and what is the real? What should we really listen to? Should we listen to? Like, one thing I really say right away, say, like, you should never ever listen to a politician about this kind of thing. You only should listen to doctors and people who are like this, doctors and people who work with this field. Because politicians are not doctors, that's the first thing. And you should never ever 100% listen to, like, example, like people like me, like a YouTuber, only listen to the doctors, they are working with this kind of thing. But you still need to. Simple way. I really just want to know more. I want to know more that are helpful. I don't believe in that system. For example, I absolutely don't believe that you are more safe if you are inside and you really limit yourself from fresh air or sunlight. I don't believe that. Probably I'm wrong, but I don't believe it. But I absolutely think this virus is a very, very serious thing. I really think that, but I think we need to know more about this thing, and yeah, yeah. And so really, I think when people like when yeah, so this so many things like when she say with the thing that to keep distance. Okay, yeah, people like you have to understand like not all people keep the distance from each other, but that do not mean that people gonna infect each other all the time. That we have to know what the real reason why something get infected from the virus. Like if is this virus similar to like I don't know the name in English now, but when you are like almost like I don't know if it's called that winter sick. Is that it's so many things simple thing that are we don't know. That is a problem, and some people say this because they want maybe money for the company for medicine. I don't gonna say any name. You probably know already the person I think about is a very very famous person with lots of money, um, or it's so many things simple way, and I probably yeah. So yeah, that is really everything I really want to say in this video, and the last thing I want to say is I have no problem with the person some talk in this video. It's nothing about that. I just think that is some important details some was left off from the video that should be they should talk more about, and yeah, that's everything I really want to say. Okay, bye.